Hey everybody, it's Brian Rooney from Prison Social Network. Today, my buddy Cody from across the pond, he asked me, he said, hey look, would you be willing to make some videos and talk about certain prison issues concerning prison, the prison experience, the ins and outs of prison, the do's and don'ts of prison, what were the guards like, and what was your personal experience yourself, and what is life like for you now? And, so basically I just wanted to give everybody a little bit of background about myself. I served 11 and a half years in the Virginia prison system in the United States. I've been out roughly now for about a year, and we could talk about that later, about the life changes that I made and the decisions that I made so I could stay out here and enjoy my freedom, which I do extensively. So shout out to Cody, and I want to thank Cody for, inviting me for this opportunity to speak on these issues, because I think it's very important that we get the scoop. Let me first say this before, we start off. Everybody has their own experiences. Everybody has their own personal stories, war stories, whatever. We see it all on YouTube, and I give a lot of credit for guys who speak out on these topics, because I think that, if you can affect a few people and kind of change the mindset of, what it's like to be a criminal, then, we can make some serious changes. So I want to thank Cody for the opportunity, and I appreciate everything, that he's helped me with. So, look, like I said, I served 11 and a half years in the Virginia State prison system. I was basically an ex-burglar. I basically broke into businesses and stores. I stole money from the safes, registers, cash boxes, whatever you want to call it. I did have a co-defendant. He served a little bit of time. That's another story. Basically testified against me, but I can honestly say that I was guilty. So, there's no one to blame but myself, due to my actions. So the first topic that I want to talk about is the prison intake, what it's like when you first go to prison. And a lot of people think that, you're just going to be thrown into the mix, that you're just going to prison and, and you pretty much have to fend for yourself. Well, to some extent that's true. But I think what it comes down to is, before, I know in the state of Virginia, other states may be different, that, Virginia, you have to go through a classification process. So basically what that is you'll be in the county jail, and once you are classified by the Department of Corrections, you're basically assigned a state number, which is basically your identification. Yes, you have a name, but you're basically, everything that you do, you have to wear an ID badge, and you're basically going to wear that badge, that ID wherever you go, because that number that they assign you is basically your identity. That is to show everybody that you are a prisoner. This is my number. My number was 106-8532. And basically, that's the number you were assigned, and that is your identification through the process. Now, the classification process is basically you're going to go to like an intake prison, to an intake center, and they're going to evaluate you. They're going to evaluate you physically, mentally, psychological tests. They're going to, delve into your criminal past. They're going to find out whether you're a violent offender, whether you're a non-violent offender. A lot of people just think, all prisoners are the same, and that's not true. You have, certain people who have committed heinous crimes. You have people who, have committed not so heinous crimes. You have non-property offenders like myself. Now, that didn't mean that I wasn't high risk, because they considered me high risk. I've been in trouble a little bit before in the past, and, that kind of raised my level up high because of, my criminal past. So what I did was, you're in jail, and which is a completely different environment. believe it or not, a lot of people think jail and prison are the same. They're not, by any means. So basically what it comes down to is you're going to be sent to a classification prison. You're going to, go through all these tests, these evaluations and everything, and you're basically going to wait until you're assigned to another prison. Basically the prison that you're going to go to, for probably, a good part of your time. You may get transferred somewhere else based on behavior. Your level may go down and you may go somewhere else. So basically, I was classified as a level 4 in the beginning, but then they dropped it down to a 3 because of the seriousness of my crimes, which I was charged with a lot of felonies. I'll spare you all the details and everything. It's no big deal. But basically what it came down to was I was considered a risk because of my time and a risk because of the number of felonies I had in criminal past. So basically what it comes down to is I was classified to a 4, I went down to a 3, and there I spent when 5 years of my time, until I was transferred to a lower level. So basically this time, when you go through this prison, intake experience, you're trying to figure it all out. I mean, this is where it really begins. This is where your journey begins. This is where you're going to, finally realize, hey, I'm doing time. And this is not an effing joke. This is the real deal. And, everything that you've heard about prison, is a joke until you've experienced it, because you have this idea in your head like, oh, this is the way the prison's going to be, and that's not necessarily the case. So we'll talk about that in further episodes and stuff like that, but it's a time where you have to figure out things, and you have to figure it out fast. You don't have time to kind of kick back and realize, you've got to be aware at all times. This is your number one lesson, that once you get there, you have to figure out, who do I talk to? Who do I not talk to? How do I act? How do I not act? And there are so many different things. And believe it or not, I mean, this is an emotional and mental moment that you'll never forget ever in your entire lifetime, even after release. So, basically that is going to be your experience. And until you're classified to the prison, it's a time of uncertainty, but it's also a time to kind of figure out, what's going on. And, that's going to be a very important time in your prison sentence, because it's pretty much going to determine how you do the rest of your time. Like I said, people change over time. Some people don't. I made the necessary changes down the road. We'll talk about that, further on down. But, that's basically it. It's your first experience. You're going to come into contact with guards, other criminals, staff members, people on the outside, your loved ones, your family. There's a whole lot to talk about. And, and we'll do that in later on episodes. But, like I said, the prison intake, my message to everybody out there is, if you're considering being a criminal, and if you're considering, criminal activity, then don't, because it's not worth it. It's a waste of time. And, you're going to pay the consequences down the road. I did, and anybody who goes through the prison experience, you are going to pay the consequences. I'm 49 years old. I'm almost 50 now. And, I'll be 50 this year. And I can honestly say that those years, I used it for growth, and I used it for, bettering myself. But, it also was a traumatizing experience. There was also a lot that, I saw that went on in prison that you would never expect that you would ever see. You certainly don't see it out here. So, before I end and move on to the next topic, I want to thank Cody for this opportunity, and to remind everybody, look, I run a website called Prison Social Network. It's a network for men and women on the inside to keep them connected to the outside world. That's another topic that we could talk about. It's very important that, you know, people remain connected to the outside world, because that's pretty much going to determine their future once they're released. So, hey, Cody, shout out to you, man. I want to thank you for this opportunity, and hopefully more videos soon, and we can talk about, you know, the topics that we mentioned in the beginning of this episode. You know, if anybody has any questions or comments or whatever, leave them, you know, with Cody, and maybe we could talk about these. There are a lot of channels out there where people talk about their experience and stuff like that, but I just want to give you my experience. I want to talk about the things that are important as far as prison issues, and kind of give everybody a little bit of awareness about the prison system and how things can change for the better. So, hey, Cody, thank you, and I look forward to working with you in the future. And I want to thank everybody for watching his channel, because, you know, he's a good guy, and he wants to make changes, and he wants to bring you the truth. And that's what this is about. So I want to thank everybody. Until the next time.